During the early days of Christianity, there was an engine that drove growth that has largely been stripped away from the Christian faith. Life on life, people with people, incarnational in the flesh. This is how the gospel has been spread and the kingdom has been grown for countless generations into the last 50 to 75 years. In the last 50 to 75 years, we have taken out the personal component of evangelism and we have traded it for programs, advertising, social media. We look to start new programs and cast vision, have effective communication on an organizational level to bring about organizational growth. But organizational growth is not always kingdom growth. That's a very important distinction. There was a Lifeway study a little while back that showed that a large percentage of church growth in the last several years has taken place through transfer growth. Christians who are just transferring from one church to another. And so as you see the growing churches among us, they're really not growing on a large scale through new conversions. They're growing through doing things better than the church across town so that people are attracted to their programs so that people will show up, and now this church is growing. Well, the church is growing, the congregation is growing, but the kingdom is not. There are not people being reached for Christ. We're shuffling Christians around town from one congregation to the other. We've seen that here in Auburn, where churches spring up, and then like a lot of people will go here, and then another church springs up, and they gotta shift over here. It's happening all over the place. Maybe that's an urban or suburban thing more than it probably is a rural thing, but it's a very real thing. Real kingdom growth comes through people doing kingdom work. Real kingdom growth is not always the result of programized ministry and attractional church models. Case in point, 10, 15 years ago, there was the Reveal study from Willow Creek that began to show the cracks in the megachurch model within megachurch environments where we're trying to use programs and attractional church methods to bring in the masses, but all we're really doing is transferring Christians from the other church to our church, and the people who are the most bought in are actually not even growing spiritually. So that began to show the cracks in the approach that sure seemed to show like vibrant church growth through programs and through attractional models, through vibrant worship and big sets and worship sets and amazing speakers. And, you have to just hire the right, basically the message is like, if you make the right hires, you get the right people and staff and position them correctly organizationally, then yes, you can grow an organization, you just might not grow a kingdom. You might not grow God's kingdom, you might grow your kingdom. But my point in all this is to say we have to get back to life on life, people talking with people. We have to become expectant of people sharing their faith with other people. So as we're just like disciple people and we're early in these early stages, we have to be encouraging those we disciple to share what God is doing in their life with their friends so that sharing just becomes a normal part of the Christian growth and maturation process rather than just like something only a few people do or a few people are gifted at or good at. Through the Gospels, everyday people bring everyday people. The Samaritan woman brings the town to Jesus. Jesus could have done other ways to get to that, but he uses people to reach people. God has always used people to reach people. Like in John chapter 1, it's Andrew who brings Peter. And on we could go. We could go into Lydia at the river and bringing the women. You could go to the Philippian jailer, taking them into his home. All kinds of verses point to this principle that Jesus illustrated in Luke 9 and 10, the person of peace. There are people in the community who can get you into broader networks of relationships, but it's going to take people going out, doing the work, praying, and looking for the harvest, sowing and watering. And the more people who do this, we will find kingdom growth as God's people do kingdom work. This is how God designed it. This is what incarnation is about. That when the new covenant was instituted, it was brought in through God in the flesh, through Jesus Christ. John 1:1, John 1:14. Jesus tabernacled among us. He made his dwelling among us. God in the flesh. God sent his message through a person. God continues to send his message through a people, through us, through you, and through me. So if we want to see kingdom growth, not just church growth, and this is the distinction that they should be one and the same. When our church grows, it should be kingdom growth rather than we're just transferring people around. Your family doesn't grow just because your cousins move from one house to another house. Or if your parents move in with you, well, you have more people in your house, but your family didn't grow. And that's what's happening with church. We're getting more people in our particular house, less people in the other guy's house. And we say, whoa, look at this. This is church growth. No, it's actually just moving your family members from one building to another building. It's not actual kingdom growth in the sense of adding new people into the kingdom of God who are not part of that prior. That's a very small percentage of actual Christian growth, which is why churches are in decline and dying, because we're having more people leave and dying than we are adding new people to the mix, or people being born and who are sticking around. So if you want to see church growth, this is the hard line message of the whole thing. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow because we've been babied through this thing for our whole lives. And we've been able just to say, well, those guys will take care of it. You can't say that anymore. You're going to have to say, well, I'm going to have to take care of who God's putting in front of me. I'm going to have to share this message. It's going to have to become normal. And as we disciple people, make it normal for them that as God begins opening their eyes and answering prayers and revealing himself to those who you disciple, is to say, like, you need to go share that with someone. You need to go tell your friends what God's doing in your life. Make this normal from the beginning, because for those of us who've been in church for 40 years where this was not normal, it becomes more and more difficult. We don't want it to be difficult for people to feel natural to share their testimony or to share their faith or to share their gospel or the work of God with other people. Church growth is not the same as kingdom growth. Church growth can happen through programs, can happen through attractional models, can happen through amazing leaders who are paid to communicate amazing sermons, through having the right staff and finding the right personalities and fits and going through organizational management principles and casting the right vision. You can grow a church like that, but you may not grow the kingdom like that. You may not grow people to maturity, which is what Willow Creek found. You may not grow new people into the faith, which is what a lot of churches are seeing. So we need to be focused on kingdom growth, even if that means your church declines. Even if that means your congregation where you worship is sending out so many leaders because you're developing leaders who are then reaching people in new places and through house churches and small groups and other locations. They've left your building, but they're growing the kingdom. That's a kingdom win. We're so focused on a church win that we can't find a kingdom win. We're distracted by a church win, so we don't know how to get a kingdom win. And you're going to notice that as the church went away from relational, life-on-life discipleship and community and kingdom growth through evangelistic efforts, and we traded that for technology, for social media, for impersonal advertisement, for putting someone up on the stage who no one in the congregation actually knows, who is very isolated and insulated from the life and the well-being of the congregation, who's called a pastor but may not be actually shepherding anyone in that church. Church is part of the kingdom, but the kingdom is bigger than the church. And when we start realizing that, we're going to start investing in things and doing things that may kill your church, but may grow the kingdom. If this video is helping you in any way, I'd love for you to hit the thumbs up. Say something in the comments. Let's talk. I'll engage you in the comments if you have feedback for this. If you think, Matt, you're completely wrong. Tractional church is amazing. Programmatic church is amazing. Let me tell you about my church. Those churches are out there. They are incredible. Some are just absolutely killing it with correct priorities and all that. It's not a universal statement of problem that I'm trying to give here, but there are some commonalities and things that we see that are far too common. That's what I'm pointing out. So God bless. Let YouTube know that you like it. Tell YouTube, hey, show this to more people. Share it with a friend.